The scan booster does not work how you think it does, and you should probably not be using it. Hey everybody, today we've got 15 quick tips and tricks for outpost building in Starfield, including how to find the best outpost locations with the resources you need, exactly how the scan booster works, plus how you can create buildings that float in thin air. If you want to see a full step-by-step beginner's guide to building a basic outpost, including using cargo links, I've got a separate video on that I will link to down below. So first up, how do you find an area to build that has the resources you want? Well, once you've located a planet that has them on, you can see here we're on Murfrid 4 in the Murfrid system. This has aluminium, it has iron, and those are the two main resources for outpost building. If you pull up our scan, we can see what biomes they actually spawn in. We can see iron here, that tends to be in the hills biome. And then if we find some aluminium, which is a bit less common, you can see that spawns in the swamp. Now, you can get these resources outside of these areas. This is just indicating where they're found in abundance. You can't necessarily find them in all of the different biomes, but what this basically means is that the best way of finding two particular resources in the same outpost that you want to mine is by finding an area between two biomes. So if we go over to where I built my outpost, and I can show you exactly what I mean. You can't really see the biomes very clearly on the map sometimes, but what you can do is click around and it tells you in the bottom right. We can see that's ocean, we can see this is swamp, and we can see this is hills. So this is an area of swamp and hills that is pretty close together. Biomes can be crossed between on foot, so if you find a spot like this is basically me finding right in between where we have some hills and some swamp and landing there, and that's an area where you're reasonably likely to find a bit of aluminium and a bit of iron that is going to overlap and allow you to mine it in one outpost. It's not a flawless technique, but it's definitely a great way to give yourself a better chance. Once you're down on the ground, the best way to find where to build your outpost is just by pulling out your outpost beacon via your scanner and then moving that around, and it will show you in the top left what you can actually mine within the radius around that beacon placement location. So you can see there we got iron, alkanes, and water. If it's there, it's iron and water. There's just alkanes and water, and we can actually just run around and then use this to locate the perfect spot that we want to build our base. And you can kind of see here, this is the edge of the swamp they're on here with these purple trees and stuff. And you can see we're just going into the hills here, and this is a nice little border area between two different biomes. So we just head over here to this base that I've already built, and we can see this is in fact an area that has aluminium and iron within it. If we go into this view, we can see we've got areas of aluminium we can mine up on the edge of the mountain here, and if we go to iron, you can see there's a bit just in this funny little corner here. When you start building your outpost, you don't need to be too precious about what you're placing, and if you make mistakes, you do get full resources back for anything you build when you delete it, even if it's been placed there for ages. So if we look at what I've got in my inventory at the moment, I've got 35 beryllium there, and if I go and delete this solar panel right here and then go to try and build another one, you can see that's gone up to 37, and again if I go and delete this one, it's gone up to 39. So you get full resources back. It doesn't really say, it doesn't pop up and tell you this, but you do get full resources back from everything you delete, whether it's a massive military grade scan booster or just a little solar panel. As well as that, you will also access your ship's full inventory from wherever you are on the planet. So all these things you can see, I've got 34 nickel, 271 aluminium, all these magnets, loads of different stuff, tungsten, loads of iron. This is all coming directly from my ship. It's not stored in this outpost, it's not stored in my inventory. It's all just coming directly from the ship, and it doesn't really matter how far away that ship is from you. I've done it up to 1 kilometer plus on a planet, and it still just works fine from there. Another handy little tip that it actually took me a little while to figure out is that you don't have to go up to your outpost beacon to enter build mode. You see, you can walk up to it and click on it, and you do in fact go into build mode, but you can just open your scanner anywhere within the radius around this of the outpost and then press the outpost button as if you were going to place a new outpost, and you will just go into build mode. As well as that, by walking up to your beacon, you can rename it by tapping on it, or even remove it completely by holding down the button. And you can in fact fact move this beacon once it's been placed. It won't move the radius of your outpost, but if say you've put it somewhere where it's in the way and you want to build there, you can actually just go into build mode, pick it up like any other item, and then chuck it off out the way over here. You can see it hasn't moved the radius of the outpost over. It's still exactly the same, but it just gets out of the way if you've put it in a bit of a silly position. You don't have to worry. It's not going to delete your whole outpost by moving it, or if you wanted to get rid of these rocks or whatever, we could just chuck it there. And you can see everything is still working as normal. Remember to use the alternative view when you're building your outpost. Sometimes it's convenient to build things like this, but a lot of the time, if you look down the bottom, go to toggle view, it's a lot easier to build stuff in here. You can zoom this out as well with your mouse or with your right stick on controller. You can zoom this in and out, which gives you a really nice view of pretty much the whole area of your outpost. So a handy little trick to know if you want to make a particularly cool looking HAB is you can make floating HABs through a little bit of glitchy building. So in order to do this, you need to get one of the 4-wall HAB, double the 2-story ones, and put that down like so. And then if you go back to the single stories and put one next to it on the ground level, and then another one on top of that, you then grab the one that is at the bottom. You see this is a double unit. We can't move that, but this one, we can select this one here, move this out of the way and chuck it over here. And you can see that we now have a floating HAB you can use up here. You have to move this one out of the way rather than delete it. If you just delete it straight out, it will try and put a foundation down below. And you can also do this by stacking up any type of HAB that you like pretty much. It's just handy to start with the 2-piece, because if you try and stack 2 on top of each other without that, they just don't really latch on very well. If we select this hydroponic HAB here, place that, and then it will try and snap them to the edges. If we press the right and left triggers, by the way, it'll actually scroll through the different snapping options, which is quite handy. But you can see it doesn't give one for the top. But with this one we've placed here, we've snapped one on the side. If we actually try and place this on here, it will snap there. But if we scroll through the snapping options with the triggers, you can see down the bottom it's the rotate controls. If you're on mouse and keyboard, we can actually snap one on top here, and then we can go down, select the bottom one, move that out of the way, put it over here, delete it, and then you can see we now have a nice floating HAB here. That's one of the slightly better looking ones rather than just a big green box. So you can see you can build all sorts of weird and wonderful things using this technique, and it really just allows you to get a bit creative and make things look great. Using the rotate controls is also quite handy for snapping containers together. Sometimes, say I wanted to make this on the side, it's a bit clunky to stick on. If you just hover over and then press the rotate button, it's just going to give you all of those different options for snapping a container. If that's going on the top by default, you can just sit there and tap and it'll go through all of those different permutations that you can use. So I just wanted to quickly talk about scan boosters. These are basically items that you can place that increase your hand scanner range. You can see there's some different varieties of it that I've got unlocked at the moment. This one doubles my range, this one triples, and this one quadruples the range of your hand scanner. Larger area of effect than the Scan Booster Advanced. So they're basically slightly better versions of each other as you go up to the military grade. Now it's a little confusing what these things do. You'd think it would give you a good boost on your scan range around a large area of the planet, allow you to scan things from further away. But what it actually increases is not the range in which you can scan things, it's the range in which it will detect things and give them an outline. So you can see this spiral creeper here is 285 meters away. So that's way beyond what I'd normally be able to scan. And this is because we've got our nice triple booster thing here. And a good way of sort of testing how this works is look at the two things in the middle. Right in the middle it's saying 290, 300 meters. It's not really helpful that I'm standing on this spinning solar panel. So you can see I can get up to 300 meters, 320-ish on the rangefinder at the moment. My hand scanner skill, by the way, is on level 3, so it says I have a scan distance of 40 meters. And you can see on the left-hand side here, it still says range 40 meters on my scanner, and it shows up to sort of 300 meters or so on the rangefinder in the middle. If I actually go over to the edge of my outpost area here, so here we are right on the edge. You can see I can look at this mountain here. It says 250 meters, 260 meters. And I can see, let's find something kind of far away. I can see this plant over here, that's 190 meters away, so pretty far away. If I actually step out of the outpost area now, suddenly my rangefinder doesn't work anymore at that distance. You can see here, 180 meters, step outside the area, suddenly I can't look further than about 100 meters. As well as that, if I put my scanner away and get it back out, you can see that it's reset and I can't even see that plant there anymore. I'm just stood slightly outside the boundary here and I can't even see this plant. If I step back in and close my scanner and reopen it again, you can see I can see it. And if I step just out and then open it again, you can see I can't see that. So the second I step outside of my outpost, the scan booster is actually doing nothing. And you can see the rangefinder in the middle actually reduces its range as well. And that's the scannable range that we can see. You can see it's nothing. It's not showing a distance there until we get within about 100 meters and then it's showing things again. Whether I'm inside the outpost area or outside, it doesn't affect the range with which you can scan things. That's 40 meters based on my skill. So I still have to get close up to these things if I actually want to scan them, whether they had the scan booster active or not. So as you can see, they're not really very useful. They're quite expensive. Obviously you do get the resources back, so you could arguably land on planets and drop an outpost, drop a advanced scan booster, quickly scan stuff in the area, but I don't think they're really going to speed up the process that much. If they actually let you scan things from that far away, I think it probably would be worth it, but because you still have to run about and collect these things anyway, I don't think it's really going to be much quicker than just running around scanning things as you normally would. So scan boosters as they are, a bit rubbish, and I wouldn't really recommend using them. Another quick tip while we're on the topic of scanning is that if you get 100% survey data on a planet, then you will get an increase in your output productivity on that outpost, so you'll mine more resources. If you want some tips on how to get 100% on every planet nice and easily, I've got a video on that on my channel, so I'll put a link to that down in the description below. Another way of increasing productivity is by using robots. If you go into your build mode and then over to robots, you can craft different ones depending on the skills that you have unlocked. So I've got the engineering robot, the logistics, and the power management. This guy will increase the production rate of manufactured items by 10%. So that's if I've got any of these builders crafted. The logistics robot will increase the production rate of all resource types. So that's going to be for mining. And then the power management robot increases the output of your generators. Keep in mind that is specifically generators, not solar panels, not wind turbines, actually just the generators, the fueled generators. A really handy trick that I found for placing objects neatly if you're struggling, you know, they spin pretty quick sometimes, especially on controller. It can be hard to get things kind of nicely lined up and looking exactly how you want. You're just going a tiny bit too much one way or the other. Little taps, you know, can be quite sensitive. If you go into your settings and go down to controls, there's actually a setting called Outpost Item Rotation Speed, which by default I think is on 4 or 5, something like that, quite quick. You can actually bring that all the way down if you want to whatever works for you. This is it down on 1. And then if we get back in this mode and try and rotate again, you can see, look, it moves really slowly now. So if we want to get something nicely lined up, we can place it here. And look, we can really nicely finesse exactly where we want this thing now. Make sure it's perfectly straight and pop the bed down just there. Another handy little tip is that anything that you drop on the floor in an outpost becomes an item that you can actually pick up when you're in build mode. This can make it a bit easier for placing things, so you can hold down the pick up button here to pick items up. You can rotate them around and this kind of thing, but it's a bit clunky sometimes if you wanted to place this on the desk. You know, it's a bit fiddly. You can go around and do all this manually, but if you've got loads of different items you want to place, you can actually just go into build mode and you can move them in that. So if we go into build mode here and then click A on this, it's become a movable object. Look, we can rotate it and it'll actually have the rotation speed of the setting that we just changed, and then we can place this wherever we want nicely and it will just snap to that table. And one more quick bonus tip before we finish today: you can actually build HABs going out over bodies of water. So there's lots of ocean you can easily find in the game. There's not actually many lakes that you can find, but if we come over to this body of water here and try and build something straight in the water, it said cannot be placed in the water. But what you can do is just snap them out over it. So if we start with an outpost airlock, we'll put that at whatever height we want it and just change our view. And then if we go down to hydroponic HAB, we can just snap that on there. We can then say get the nice cool round one, stick one of those out there, and then snap whatever you want to it whilst it's out in the water. So you could make a cool little dock out in the ocean. You could make something on a lake like we've done here. You can just do some really interesting type of builds if you can find a nice body of water to build on. So that's everything for today. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. And why not check out one of my other Starfield tips and guide videos on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Ben, we are the Beard Guys, and I'll see you next time.